Hey Sugar Geeks, Liz here. Today we are going to be making a delicious fresh blackberry lime cake with blackberry buttercream. I've been wanting to make this cake for you guys for so long and I'm so excited that we're finally going to be making it today. You don't want to miss it. It's coming up next on the Sugar Geek Show. Ultimately, what I found gave the biggest blackberry flavor was making a reduced blackberry puree and then swirling that into our lime cake and then adding more fresh blackberries in there as well. So we're gonna take some cornstarch, add it to our lime juice and make a slurry so that there's no lumps or anything. Then we're gonna take our blackberries, put them in a medium saucepan with some salt and then add the cornstarch mixture to that. Then we're just gonna cook it until it's, kind of getting soft. And I like to use an immersion blender to just kind of break it down and make it nice and smooth. And then you just want to keep cooking that until it gets nice and thick. We just want to get rid of some of that extra water so that it's not adding a ton of liquid into our cake batter because that's going to make it really gummy. Once your blackberry puree is nice and thick, you can go ahead and let that cool to room temperature, strain out the seeds and set it aside. When I was straining out the seeds, it actually took quite a while because there's just so many blackberry seeds. So if you don't mind the seeds, you could totally skip that step. One thing that's good about straining the seeds out of the puree though is that we're gonna add some of this to the buttercream. And when you're smoothing the buttercream with a bench scraper, if there's seeds in it, it tends to kind of pull and make divots in the buttercream. So to me, it was worth it. You can also make this ahead of time and freeze it for up to 6 months. So if you have a ton of blackberries, went to the farmer's market, got a little carried away. Not that I've ever done that before. Make a bunch of puree, freeze it, and then you can divide it into, quarter cup portions and then just use it whenever you want it. I admit, this is one of those cakes that I was like, this is gonna be so easy. I've made a lemon raspberry cake, a lemon blueberry cake, strawberry cake. We're just gonna throw some blackberries in some cake batter and it's gonna be a delicious blackberry cake. That's not what happened. I was very surprised to find out that blackberries are one of those fruits that when you bake them into cake, they will turn weird colors. Kind of like if you ever made a carrot cake and the carrots will turn green. The same thing was happening to my blackberries. So I had to do a ton of research and I found out that it all has to do with acidity. Darn that acidity, it's always the culprit. We had to raise up that acidity. So we are gonna be using lemon juice, lime zest, and buttermilk. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and make our cake batter. I've preheated my oven to 335 degrees Fahrenheit. If you don't have that temperature on your oven, you can just go to 350, it's okay. We're gonna take our flour, salt, baking soda, no baking powder, and our sugar and put it into our bowl of our stand mixer with a paddle attachment attached. And then we're going to add in our butter and make that coarse sand texture. It can just take, a minute or two. I just mix on low with my Bosch mixer or whatever setting your mixer has, just lowest setting. I have sometimes overmixed and it hasn't made a difference. Overmixing is fine, undermixing, no. Another thing that I noticed is that blackberries are actually really fat, or maybe it's just Oregon blackberries, or maybe, I don't know. They were having a hard time staying afloat, all right? They were going down with the ship. So we had to actually go with all-purpose flour instead of cake flour to hold on to the blackberries better. And if you ever used all-purpose flour with the reverse creaming method, your cake can get a little cornbready. So we had to turn down the mixing a little bit, and luckily the buttermilk kind of helped us out with keeping that cake nice and tender. Plus all of the blackberries are keeping it nice and moist as well. Okay, so divide your buttermilk in half and add the oil to one half of the buttermilk, set that aside. And then to the other half, you're gonna add your lime juice, your lime zest, your eggs, whisk that together until it's combined, and then set that aside. Now we're going to take the milk and oil mixture, add it to the flour mixture, and then we're only gonna mix for 1 minute. This is developing the structure and the texture of the cake, but because we're using AP flour and it has a higher protein content than cake flour, it's going to develop gluten a lot faster, so we don't wanna mix it too much. Once that is light and fluffy, like so, then we're gonna go ahead and add in that milk and egg mixture, just pouring it in little bits at a time until it's all combined and mixed thoroughly. And I'm gonna use 3 6-inch by 2-inch pans. I like Fat Daddy-O pans or Magic Line, they work really well. And we're gonna coat those babies in cake goop. What is cake goop? It is homemade pan release. It's super easy to make. I have the recipe right there. It pretty much will change your life if you've never used it before, just saying. Now I'm gonna divide this cake batter into our 3 pans. Yes, I put it on a scale to make sure that all my cake layers are even. That's totally a normal thing to do. You should do it too. And then I'm gonna take a couple of tablespoons of my puree and add it on top of each pan of batter, and then just kind of like swirl that in there. And then I'm gonna add a few fresh blackberries. And you're just gonna, like, you know, tuck them into bed there, have a little cake nap. What a way to go. Okay, so now we're gonna pop these babies in the oven. We're gonna bake them for 30 to 40 minutes, depending on your oven, how hot it is, you know, how big it is. All kinds of things can vary with how long you actually need to bake these cakes, especially when you start putting berries in there. I feel like the berries like sometimes make cakes take longer to bake. So just keep an eye on it, keep checking it, make sure that everything is baked through before you take them out. Once your cakes are done baking, I let them cool in the pan for like 10 to 20 minutes, just until like the sides of the pans are barely warm. Then I flip them out onto cooling racks and I immediately pop them into the freezer because I'm impatient and I want to start frosting this cake now. So while your cakes are cooling, let's go ahead and make our easy buttercream. Easy buttercream is super easy. It's like kind of the texture of a Swiss meringue buttercream, but it's like powdered sugar, egg whites, butter, and flavoring. So it's a really great base to add blackberry puree to it. So I'm gonna add the rest of our blackberry puree to our easy buttercream. You could also add, you know, like some like lemon extract if you want a little bit more of a citrus pop. You could add some food coloring if you wanted a deeper purple. You could even add more blackberry puree if you wanted to. It's very forgiving. So first I'm gonna trim all of my cakes because I love my slices to look Pinterest worthy. I'm just gonna trim all those little brown edges off the top, the bottom, the sides, make them look all beautiful like. Then we're gonna put a nice fat layer of that blackberry buttercream on there. And just because I love how it looks, I'm gonna add some more fresh blackberries in between the layers of cake. So I'm gonna put some blackberry buttercream on the first layer of cake, on the top layer of cake, and then sandwich the blackberries in the middle. If you need more information on how to stack and frost and decorate your very first cake, I have a tutorial for that. It's right here and it goes over like literally everything from tools to techniques. So if you need help, don't worry, I got you. Do that for the other layers and then we're gonna coat the whole thing in a crumb coat, pop it in the fridge for 15 minutes and let it set up. Once your crumb coat is set, we can put our final layer of buttercream on there. I like to use this tall bench scraper from Fat Girl Cakes so that it gets it nice and smooth, goes all the way up to the top, and then you use your offset spatula to make the edges all nice and sharp. If you're from Oregon or the Pacific Northwest and you're watching this video, you might ask, can I make this with marionberries? And the answer is yes, yes you can, and it would be delicious. If you're not from the Pacific Northwest, hi, we have these things called marionberries. And they're like giant blackberries and they are delicious and they pretty much only exist here. Random Oregon facts. So to finish this cake off, I'm gonna add some buttercream to a piping bag with a 1M piping tip. Top them off with some fresh blackberries and a sprinkle of lime zest because it looks cute. I love how the fresh blackberries look in the buttercream. It's like that perfect pinky purple blackberry color. All right, let's taste this blackberry cake. I mean, that's pretty good. You have the flavor of the puree, which is its own flavor, and then you have the acidity from the like lime in the cake, and it's super soft, and then you have these bursts of fresh blackberry. Hopefully you make this cake this summer. If you do, please, please tag me on Instagram. Let me know. I can't wait to see your pictures. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all next week. Bye.